Hello children, let us move on to the another important aspect of circulatory system. So in circulatory system, another important aspect is coagulation of blood, that is clotting of blood. So why blood should get clotted? That is the question. When a person gets injury, naturally the blood comes out, blood flows out. The blood should get clotted within 3 to 6 minutes. Within 3 to 6 minutes, the blood should get clotted. If the blood does not get clotted, what happens? The blood flow continues and the person may die also for want of blood. So it is a natural body mechanism which makes the blood get clotted when an injury occurs. Okay, what is the mechanism? What are the chemical changes that are taking place in the process of coagulation of blood, clotting of blood? That we shall see. So first, when an injury occurs, naturally the blood comes out. Immediately, blood platelets. We have already discussed about blood platelets, which are also called as thrombocytes. So they play important role in the coagulation of blood. So the blood platelets, which are also called as thrombocytes, they produce an enzyme which is called as thrombokinase. And in the blood, there are two factors are present, fibrinogen and prothrombin in dissolved condition. I have already told you in the previous class, fibrinogen and prothrombin, they help in clotting of blood when an injury occurs. And heparin is another substance which helps in preventing clotting of blood during circulation in the body. When the circulation is taking place in the body, heparin prevents clotting of blood. But when an injury occurs, there are certain organic substances which are called as fibrinogen and prothrombin. They are the factors which play important role in clotting of blood. So this thrombokinase, which is produced by platelets, acts on prothrombin and converts it into thrombin. So this thrombin acts on soluble fibrinogen. Fibrinogen is present in dissolved form in the blood. So soluble fibrinogen gets converted into insoluble fibrin. It makes strands on the surface of the injury and it will not allow the blood to flow out. It stops the flow of blood. And naturally the blood flow is stopped and the blood gets clotted. And there will be, after clotting of the blood, some liquid, some fluid can be seen on the surface of the injury, which is called as serum. So what is serum and what is plasma? Plasma we have already discussed. Plasma is the fluid part of the blood. In the fluid part of the blood, plasma is in the fluid form, which contains RBC, WBC and platelets and also certain organic and inorganic substances. So here the plasma and serum. Serum is the fluid part of clotted blood. Plasma is fluid part of the blood. Serum is a fluid part of clotted blood. So after clotting of blood, some fluid can be seen which is called as a serum. Blood clot, after clotting of the blood has taken place, some fluid is seen that is called as a serum. So this is the mechanism that is taking place in the coagulation of blood or clotting of blood. So here again I am repeating, when an injury occurs, the platelets, which are called as thrombocytes, they produce an enzyme called thrombokinase, which acts on prothrombin. Prothrombin acts on thrombin. Thrombin acts on soluble fibrinogen and converts into insoluble fibrin. And insoluble fibrin forms strands on the surface of the injury and prevents loss of blood. The blood gets clotted. The fluid that appears after clotting of blood is called serum. And there is a vitamin which is called as vitamin K, which is called phylloquinone. which helps in clotting of blood. So the persons who are deficient of vitamin K, the blood flow can be seen, more blood flow can be seen when an injury occurs. And there is another genetic disease which is called as hemophilia. So that means when an injury occurs, even a small cut will result in loss of large amounts of blood. That is a genetic disease which is called as hemophilia. Okay, so this is the process which is taking place when an injury occurs. Okay, hope you have understood. And now next, another system. So parallel to the circulatory system, in addition to blood circulatory system, there is another system which is called as a lymphatic system. So what is a lymphatic system? Lymph vessels are present. So what happens? The arteries end with capillaries and veins start with capillaries in all these cells. So in between that process, some fluid is left behind. Okay, so that fluid is collected by these lymph vessels. Sometimes the lymph, if there is no movement in the especially lower organs, the fluid gets accumulated in lower body parts, which results in swelling of the lower body parts. So that is called as edema. So actually the lymph vessels from the small intestine, they collect fatty acids and they supply to all the tissues. And again they collect the extra fluid, that means which is called as a tissue fluid. It is also called as lymph. So lymph or tissue fluid is collected by lymph vessels and they take it back to the veins. And again along with the lymph, the veins open into the right auricle. So that is a lymphatic system. Actually lymph vessels collect fatty acids from the small intestine. We have already seen in the digestive system what happens. The simplest form, that is fatty acids, are collected by lymph vessels and they supply it to all the cells. And during circulation of blood, arteries end with capillaries and veins start with capillaries. And in between the process, what happens? Some fluid is left behind, which is called as lymph or tissue fluid. So it is usually colorless and it contains less amount of proteins. So lymph vessels collect what are all the fluids that are left in the tissues. They will collect and which are present in the intercellular spaces, and they will get back to the veins. Suppose if there is no movement for a long period of time, what happens? The tissue fluid gets collected, especially in the lower limbs. That will lead to swelling of the limbs, which is called as edema. So that is along with coagulation of blood, and there is another system which runs parallelly to the blood circulatory system, which is called as a lymphatic system. So lymphatic system contains lymph vessels. Lymph vessels contain lymph or tissue fluid, which is colorless. So from the small intestine, fatty acids are collected by lymph vessels to all the tissues, and some extra fluid is left behind in the intercellular spaces. So that is collected by these lymph vessels and they open into the veins. Suppose if there is no exercise, there is no movement for long period of time, what happens? The lymph, that is tissue fluid, will get accumulated and that will result in swelling of the limbs, which is called as edema. Okay. So that is these are the main things about coagulation of blood and lymphatic system. Okay, hope you have understood, and please let me know if you have any doubts. Thank you.